Hello, my name is Dennis Schmidtke, and we are here in Forest Hill Cemetery to discuss its significance. I'm an architect and a member of the American Institute of Architects since 1957. I'm also a member of the Michigan chapter of the Society of Architectural Historians since 1980, and have been a member of the Washtenaw County Historic District Commission for 12 years. And over that time, this commission has marked over 42 cemeteries in Washtenaw County as being significant to the cultural history and development of the county. From that background, I wish to tell you about this cemetery as being one of the most significant historical sites in the city. It derives its significance from criteria established by the National Park Service in evaluation of sites of a single use enduring over a long period of time in urban and rural settings. Forest Hill is distinguished by having three categories of significance. These include its landscape design, its architecture, and its monuments. The significance of each is based on its association with a design master or representation of common historic styles. Interestingly, most people visit cemeteries to learn about those interred there, but this consideration is discounted by the National Park Service as is not contributing to the cultural development of our American society. Let's look at each of these categories separately. Its landscape design, in particular. The site and its road system was designed and engineered by Colonel James Glenn of Niles, Michigan in 1858. And built over the following year. His title of colonel was honorary, as was commonly accorded for high achievement in a specific profession in the 19th century. Glenn designed the cemetery in the rural style, a common design scheme used for hilly and wooded sites, such as we are in today, which were unsuitable for both urban development and farming in the 19th century. The style originated in France in the 18th century, first appeared in New York, became famous for its high style in the Boston Mount Auburn Cemetery in 1831, and worked its way west till the end of the century. What was so special about James Glenn, you might ask, to have been selected to design this cemetery? Early in his career at 21, in 1833, he got a job as a surveyor's helper to lay out a new cemetery in Niles named Silverbrook. Not in any particular style, but a very regimented alignment of gravesides. It was, however, the beginning of his career as an accomplished land engineer, and some would say as a landscape architect and building architect too. Since Niles straddles two counties, Berrien and Cass, and with his living in Cass, he was asked by the governor to represent it in the Michigan legislature in 1845 to assume the remaining term of a vacated office of representative. His acceptance meant living in Detroit for a year, and that led to his having the opportunity to witness the design and construction of Elmwood Cemetery in Detroit at the time, in the rural style too, on wooded and hilly land, which was to include then a chapel, but was not realized until a few years later. The legislative session of 1846 to 1847 was to be the last in the city of Detroit as the state capital, and it needed a new home, and Glenn a job too, since he didn't care for the politics of being elected for a full term. The governor commissioned him to lay out a new city in the forest of Ingham County to be named Lansing, to construct its road and design a new capitol building, all in less than a year's time, for the legislature's move from Detroit to Lansing in 1848. Back in Niles in the early 50s, he was asked to design and build a new sanctuary for his Episcopal church, which he executed in brick masonry in a Gothic style. In 1853, he was appointed to the design team to determine the route, survey, and design the first locks in the St. Mary's River at Sault Ste. Marie to allow deep draft vessels from the Great Lakes to reach Duluth. Thus his reputation was established as a leading engineer and architect in the state. Forest Hill Cemetery was founded in 1856. Monuments here in Forest Hill derive their significance primarily from their styles in the periods of their creation and the artisanship of the Arnett family for over 104 years, many of whom are buried on the mound originally intended for the chapel in this cemetery. Most here have a style reflecting the conservative preferences of the large German community in the 19th century and are remarkably different from those in Highland Cemetery in Ypsilanti, yet carved in the same historical periods by the same family of craftsmen. Another prevalent example of a historical style were the Egyptian obelisks nearby, as you can see in the far distance in this particular shot. There are several places throughout the cemetery where they are gathered in clusters, and that will give you some indication of the popularity of that style in the late 19th century. Until contemporary times that a new design creativity has emerged here from 20th century concepts of design, as indicated in this granite cube we see standing on its corner, much like the sculptural cube formerly behind the administration building on campus. Here's another contemporary style of a few decades ago, a ground type of mausoleum in granite. Finally, we come to the last significant category, which is architecture. And here before us is the Sexton's Lodge, designed by the renowned Detroit architect Gordon Lloyd in 1874 in a Gothic Revival style, and who also designed the local Episcopal and Congregational churches and many others in southeastern Michigan in the late 19th and early 20th century. Here we are at the rear of the Sexton's Lodge, and it will give you a good idea of its construction and the slate shingles on a pattern and the wrought iron cresting on its roof line, all typical of the style of Gordon Lloyd and the Gothic Revival of the time. Closing, and to sum up, we invite your visit to Forest Hill Cemetery to learn more about what it holds in the development of the community and the design of this remarkable place, its architecture, its monuments, and its land planning and landscape design. And we hope you have enjoyed our podcast and presentation of this most significant setting in the city of Ann Arbor.